Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. So basically, speaking of art, and in a way, you curate an experience, right? In terms of your hospitality. Mm-hmm. So by asking people to send me 4 images, I'm not subconsciously to you subconsciously curated a conversation for me.
Sure.
And I'm like, okay, so this is a photo of, or it's an image of it's supposed to look like the back of a book, but it looks like a digital sort of illustration. And it's a quote. The quote is, "If you're not ready to expose your true self in New York, you won't survive here. Love your beautiful imperfections. Be confident and accept others for who they are. Do that and you belong to New York forever." And those words are in yellow on a baby blue sort of field. And okay, so I showed the world that I know how to read. Do you want to read this? Because somehow if it comes out of your mouth, it might mean more.
It's perfect. I don't even have it in front of me, so it's perfect. You did it plenty of justice. This is a magazine in New York called Quoted, and this is the cover, and they do these sort of love letters to New York, and this is one
genius.
copy that I love. And we were just finished talking about being an urban rat. No offense to the world, and I've been to lots of places in the world. I personally believe that New York is the center of the universe. Mm-hmm. The energy around it, the thing that you can't describe about it, mostly energy is how I describe it, truly is one of a kind. And again, London, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Singapore, Tokyo, Cape Town, Sao Paulo, you name it, Buenos Aires, there's truly nothing like it. And I just love the rawness of that quote. And again, it kind of ties back to a lot of the things we're talking about, is this idea of just be your authentic self, expose your perfections and imperfections. And if people aren't ready to accept them, then tough shit. Don't change yourself to force you belonging. Find where you truly belong. And if it takes you a while, it's better to be you and take longer to find your tribe than to try to be someone else and live a life of misery trying to pretend to be someone you're not.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it's just that if you know enough about New York, that really describes the New York attitude, essentially, that we don't give a shit. We are who we are. If you like it, great. Mm-hmm. If you don't, we don't care. And I love that.
You can always leave.
Irreverent attitude about New York. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Connect that to practicing hospitality.
It seems counterintuitive, right? But really the simple message that I would pull out of there is be yourself and people will appreciate who you are far more than you trying to be someone else. So you can't be everything to everyone, because to me, again, another overused term, authenticity. I describe authenticity as an unapologetic point of view. So have a point of view. Instead, don't disrespect people. People are entitled to their point of view, but you have yours and you own it. Don't hide from it. Don't pretend that you're something else. And I think in how it manifests itself in what we do is that you may not like the place I have to offer you, and that's okay. I don't need every single person to love it, because if you don't stand for something, you're nothing. And I feel like we have to stand for something. Not political, obviously, not religious, not any of that stuff, but just having a point of view. Like if you want to go do, I don't know, if you want to go do a nautical hotel, go all in on it. Like go do nautical. Don't try to say, oh, this person will like it and that person won't like it. Because the minute you start diluting what it is that you believe in, it just becomes, you see it, right? And it becomes diluted and meaningless.
Right. Okay.
So it's the one word I'd pull out of there for you is authenticity.
Yeah.
Everyone else is taken. Be yourself.
Of course. So let's talk about some. This is this is so great that we're back in this pool. Okay, so given your experience and your perspective on the world, why don't you talk about what is it to be a leader?
It is cheerleader is the way I describe it, more than a leader. Your job is to, I mean, again, if you believe in this quote, I think it was Howard Schultz from Starbucks or somebody who said, Hire people that are smarter than you are and get out of their way. So if you're the smartest guy in the room every day, you're in the wrong room, right? Your job as a leader is to make sure that your people are, here we go. You got it? Back to Maslow. My job is to go around every single day to every single person and push their self actualization button, making sure they
Mm,
know they matter, making sure their contribution matters. Because if you push that transcendence button for them, that creates loyalty. Because again, at the bottom is you've got to pay them right and you've got to give them the right benefit. And if they've got to work the right hours, check, 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 check. Everybody's doing that now, particularly
absolutely.
in a tight labor market. How do you go above and beyond and create this idea of loyalty? Simon Sinek, your countryman, I'm sure you're familiar. I love this idea
Hmm.
of making sure people know why they do what they do. Not what, not
Yeah.
where, not how, not when, but why. So this idea of ensuring there's a common thread in the company for people to understand what their mission is and why they do what they do, and then ensuring along the way that you're practicing what you preach. So if I tell you make sure you connect with the guest and push their transcendence button, I better be doing that for you as well and making sure you
Yeah.
realize you count and you matter. And lastly, longing for belonging. Because if I am just here for a paycheck, back to the commodity conversation, if I'm here for a
Hmm.
paycheck, everybody gives me a paycheck, everybody has the same benefits, I will go to the next person who gives me 1 cent more. But if I feel like I belong, it's going to be really hard for me to leave. Really
Yeah.
hard. So you create this sort of intrinsic loyalty by being that cheerleader who's walking around and pushing the, like I almost want to put it on everyone's uniform in the back and go be like, okay, I'm
Hmm.
going to do it. I'm going to do it. Self actualization and transcendence, do it. So, and again, it's lost on people. Sure, there's the technical part of the business, right? Setting the goals and inspect what you expect and make sure you hold people accountable, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you can learn that in a book. The other part is so much harder. It's not as easy to learn and it's not usually in a book.
Okay. So, what if was is there a story? Not a story. Is there a moment or experience that really brought that? Because again, we read about Maslow, and it's okay, it's fine, and it's a great sort of framework to sort of help you articulate and share and talk about
Sure,
the
sure,
importance of this.
sure,
But can you talk about a time when where you kind of physiologically,
sure.
palpably, totally, really felt, oh, that I get it. That's why it's important.
Well, I'll tell you where I've done it for someone pushing that button.
Sure.
So this goes back a few years now. There was a big hurricane in Puerto Rico that decimated the island. They lost power for months, no water, big, big news, that like terrible. We had a person who worked for us who had big ties to the island, lots of family there, and obviously no contact. You can't go there, you can't fly there. And we felt, again, she belonged, we were her family. It was our duty because we were capable to literally send her with a plane full of supplies, move Earth to get permission to fly in, to get to Puerto Rico where no one else could, and go help her family. And
Oh
that's
wow.
one example. And again, if you're fortunate to have the means to do that, sure, and you can't do that for every single person, obviously, but that's one big
Hmm.
example of how you can do it. Other small examples are, again, walking up to someone and talking to them like a human and asking them about their family and what matters to them. It's really, really
Hmm.
easy, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I tell people that go to work for big companies, I say, yeah, sure, great, but you're going to be a statistic. Do you want to be a statistic or a person? So if you're able to make someone feel like a person, feel like they matter, I think those are the very small ways of me showing up in the morning and saying, hey, I know you probably haven't had breakfast. Here's a, I don't know, a power bar for you. Like that moment alone,
Hmm.
those are the things that make the difference. It's not necessarily about grand gestures. It doesn't take grand gestures to do that. So it can happen every day in lots of simple ways. I mean, I could tell you 100 stories about how we've manifested that. Sometimes with money, sometimes with effort, sometimes with words. It's not limited to one thing.
Okay, so one of them, just because I've been bouncing between Hong Kong, Canada, and the U.S. as a sort of a sort of an implant, like an implant from into the U.S. and a learner and a soaker of the mythology and the story and the potential and all those words. And I'm looking at this quote, if you're not ready to expose your true self in New York, you won't survive here, right? So that authentic self. So how would you describe that access to potential or ability to self-expression or the ability to self-actualization within the US versus other places that you've been to? Like, can you name that? Or, I mean,
Such a hard question. I mean, access to potential, that first question, I will say, I am a true believer. Hard work pays off, but sometimes, often, right time, right place, luck. People say, don't wait for luck, make your own luck. I believe in all of that. But I know very smart people that are exceedingly hardworking that have been doing it for a long time and just weren't given the break that they deserve or need. So
yeah.
access to opportunity, I would say largely is in your hands, but not 100% in your hand. You could be smarter, more hardworking, and just not be given the break that you might need. So anyone who's working hard and is feeling despair that they're not getting there, don't give up because it takes one moment, one interaction, one person to see your potential, and you'll hit it. But yeah, it's not always guaranteed. Hard work is not always a guarantee to. Sure, you'll make it, but you're not going to necessarily make it to what you think you should make it, or someone who's worked as hard as you made it. The U.S. I haven't lived anywhere else meaningfully enough to speak intelligently about this. I've visited lots of places quickly, so I can't really speak
Hmm.
to it. But I feel like you look at a lot of the refugees that are crisscrossing the globe, and there's lots of stories of failure, obviously, right? Just because the system is stacked against them. But you look at some incredible stories, people who literally came with the shirt on their back and created
Yep.
something in a country they don't know, a language they don't speak, a culture that's not similar to theirs. So I feel that globally, there's always opportunity. The size of the opportunity, the scale of the opportunity is definitely different. Now, the hardest thing though is, and when I moved to the US, I assimilated very quickly. I think part of the problem people that travel to other countries to try to get opportunity is they stay together. And if you're always staying
Mm,
together and thinking the same way and talking the same language, you limit your ability to be exposed to different kind
absolutely.
of opportunities. So I'm a strong proponent of assimilation without losing your identity. Don't go change your name to whatever Sam and become pretend
Hmm.
that you're not from somewhere else because that speaks against the idea of being authentic. But yeah, you
Yeah.
can't just live in a bubble. Just like, when we're raising kids and they live in a bubble and then they go to the world and they're like completely lost. They don't know what to do because they think the
Sure.
world is what that bubble is and the world is a completely different place. And I've been, again, a big proponent of taking my kids across the globe with me and making sure they're exposed to the ultra bougie and the very poor and everything in between. It's a big world out there.
Right.
Like you can't just live in a bubble. Lots of people sadly
Yeah.
live in a bubble.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you've traveled and you've seen it, and yeah. So, okay.
Don't travel to discover the world, travel to discover yourself. One of my favorite
Yes,
quotes.
that's a very good one. How about you say that again?
Say that again.
Yeah. Can you say it again so so it sits in their heads a bit more?
Don't travel to discover the world, travel to discover yourself. So when you go, like I said, and you see things you're not used to and you experience things you're not used to, you learn far more about yourself than you do about the place you're visiting.
That's beautiful. Practice hospitality, Bashar Wali. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been really great.
Thank you. Glad you woke up early for this. I hope it was worth your while.
I'm an early riser, anyways. It's all good.
By the way, I just started watching the show Expats last night, Amazon.
Okay.
Nicole Kidman, and it's about these Americans that moved to Hong Kong. You should watch it.
Here's the funny thing. There was this big hubbub about when they were shooting it in Hong Kong and everything,
Yeah.
and Amazon won't let it stream in Hong Kong.
You know how to play the VP. You know how to do the VPN game. It's not that hard.
You're right.
Yeah.
Okay, look,
All right. Thank you. Nice meeting you. Cheers.
have a really great weekend.
You as well. Thanks.
So, is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So, if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please
give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting